Fitzpatrick and Brad Show
on the KATT.
The deadCenter Film Festival is this weekend, and one of the films that is premiering. Did you show in Phoenix already?
It showed at the Phoenix Film Festival,
but it's
yes.
Oklahoma premiere, I think.
Yeah, this is only the second time it's shown.
This weekend at the deadCenter Film Festival at Harkins Bricktown, and it is the film is called Oklahoma Breakdown. It's the Mike Hosty story, and Christopher Fitzpatrick. I was saying a minute ago, I keep screwing up your name because I always want to say Curtis, which is your brother who we work with, and then Chris Kirkpatrick, I think, is in one of the boy bands, and so I always. I say always. This morning I have wound up almost saying Chris Kirkpatrick every time, but it's Christopher Fitzpatrick. And now, you didn't get in here. I didn't get a chance to talk to you before we went on the air, so I'm going to do a bunch of this stuff on air. Did you go to OU like Curtis did?
Yes.
So is that where you got first exposed to Mike?
Yeah, 1995 is when I first saw him with the band Heater. And don't remember a ton about the show, but when I became 21 and I could go see shows at the deli just down the street in Norman, he was then with the Mike Hosty trio, and that sort of changed, like blew me away how he could just hold an audience, and everybody danced to that.
Hosty, the Hosty trio, Hosty duo, and then just Hosty, what was interesting to me about it, and I don't know Mike, I've met him a couple of times, I don't know him, but I admire him for a bunch of different reasons, and I think this is cool that you've done this film. I can remember people say, I remember seeing the Hosty Trio was the first exposure that I had to him. And then he was always around, but he was one of those guys that was around so much that you almost took it for granted.
Yes.
And so I didn't go see him a whole lot. And then I started hearing people talking about him doing this one-man band shtick, as they would describe it. And my thought immediately was, when I was a kid on TV, occasionally you'd see somebody do a one-man band thing, and they had all these wacky instruments that they could play at one time. And then when I saw him, it made more sense to me because I'd seen Bruce Cockburn do something similar, where he would sample himself playing a rhythm, and then he would play over his own rhythm, and he could play by himself, and it was phenomenal. And then from that, you got guys like Ed Sheeran does something similar. What's the guy that does Sleeping on the Blacktop? Coulter Wall. He plays guitar and plays a kick drum at the same time. But it really was, I don't want to call it a gimmick, because he wasn't doing it to get people in. I think he was doing it out of necessity, that it just made it easier for him to play.
For a lot of reasons, yeah. He even says, well, you don't have to pay a drummer.
Right.
You don't have to pay an organ player.
You don't have to practice with them. You don't have to worry about them showing up to practice. You don't have to worry about them being on time to the gig. You don't have somebody lugging their gear in. Now that's more work that he's got to do.
That's the one drawback that he obviously has. But you talked about that being a gimmick for other people, and how there's other people that, they'll play a loop or they'll have a kick drum, but it's just different with Mike because he's doing so much more than anybody I've ever seen. He's there doing 3-part drums.
Well, what's weird to me about the drum thing is, so Coulter Wall does it, but he's playing just a kick drum. So it's really, he's just keeping the beat with the drum. He's not really doing anything fancy. I saw Ray Wiley Hubbard last weekend, and I think it's the first time that I've seen him with a band but without a bass player. And the drummer was playing bass, but he was playing it on a drum sampler. And so he was playing drums, and playing the bass on this drum sampler at the same time. And it was like, that dude's doing way too much work. He shouldn't have to work that hard. And I feel that way about Mike, too, because Mike's a great guitarist. And for him to be playing drums for himself and doing all the stuff that he was doing, I mean, it's just remarkable. It shows you the gift that he's got.
Yeah, and Ryan Lindsay from the band Broncho is in the documentary, and he mentioned something. He's like, I've never seen anybody effortlessly control things the way that he does. It doesn't look hard, and he just makes it look so easy. But some people haven't seen him do this a lot, but he'll play the harmonica while he's up there. He can do, and it's not just playing 3 chords or 4 chords. He's up there thumbing the bass. He's up there playing the rhythm, and then he's doing a solo, and he can just do it all while playing the kazoo if he needs to.
And one of the things that I really admire about Mike and his story, and I haven't seen the film, by the way. I really want to see it, but I've not seen it yet. One of the things I really admire about him, and in a weird sort of way, it is almost, I don't want to say a put down, but it seems like, which I can relate to, by the way, it seems sort of slacker. Like you think you work your whole life to acquire this skill or hone this gift that you've got. And in order to succeed in that given industry, you have to go to Austin or you have to go to California or New York and you have to get a recording contract and you have to hit the charts and you have to do all of these things. And I admire the fact that Mike kind of found his place, and I don't know, and I, like I said, I don't know him. I've met him a couple of times. I've never had a really conversation with him, which I would love to do. But I don't know if he just didn't have the drive to do that. I don't know if he felt like it was more of a hassle than it was going to be worth, and he found a place where he could live and have a certain amount of success and live the comfortable life that he wanted to live. And so he just locked in right there and stayed there. But I find that admirable. Like I said, you could consider that a put down. I'm not saying it as a put down. I kind of find it admirable in a certain way.
He doesn't want to play the game. He doesn't want to kiss anybody's ass, and
Right.
he doesn't like having his ass kissed, honestly. And that was also said to me by Shiny Ribs when I interviewed him. But he is the most rugged of individualists you'll ever see. And he values family, and he had a kid to raise, and a lot of musicians have had very many struggles with that.
Right.
And if you're going to be a musician, a working full-time musician playing 5-6 nights a week, you kind of want to stay close to home, and he's been able to figure that out, and that's really rare.
Well, and you think about, like, you don't have insurance. You don't have insurance for your kid. Now, if you're lucky, you got a spouse, and they can help pick up the slack with some of that, but then you got to pay bills. And it's not cheap to raise a kid just in general. And the fact that he's able to do what he's able to do. I mean, you watch any of these documentaries or you read anything about, which I do a lot, about bands and their struggles and they're trying to find their way. I look at a guy like Ray Wiley Hubbard, who's in his mid-70s, and he's out playing every night, man. He's had some big records. He's written some really big records, and he's probably made some pretty good money in his life. But he's out there playing every night, and he ain't playing at the Ford Center or the Paycom Center. He's out playing the Tower Theater, or he's playing a bar in Amarillo, or he's playing, you know what I mean?
Like, he loves it.
But that's what's admirable to me about it. It's like, guys, I admire stand-up comics that stay with stand-up more than I admire people that get the sitcom, get the movie deal, get whatever it is they make that grab, and they use that as a footstool to get to the next thing. The guys that I really admire are like guys like Chris Rock that have made a ton of money, but he still considers himself a stand-up, and that's still what he wants to do.
It's about how much do you love what you're doing.
Yeah.
And that is something with Mike. A lot of people pick up a guitar because they want to get girls, like 95% of the people.
Well, and I'm not going to say that that's not what started him down that path. It might have been.
But he literally asked him that. I go, it's just a very real thing. It happens when you're young and you're trying to impress girls. He's like, well, I'm part of the other 5% then, because he still loves playing guitar. He's locked in. He does.
Well, I think that there are a lot of people. I don't know that those two are necessarily divorced from each other. I think that there are people that is a pathway to normalcy for them. I think that there are people that don't have the ability or don't have the confidence on a certain level to go out and talk to women, or don't feel self-assured enough to be, and that having that to sort of hold that barrier down for you,
express themselves
is really beneficial. And you express yourself and you find a way to communicate on a level that you can't do the other way. And so I don't think that, I don't mean to minimize it, but I don't think those two are completely divorced from each other, because I think music is a means to, like I said, normalcy is probably not the right word, but it is a means to find a way to do something that otherwise you struggle to do. I can relate to that.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because he's sort of an introvert in a way, like when he was growing up. And I think when he got thrust into the role of being a frontman or being on stage playing guitar, he sort of evolved into this charismatic guy who's on stage. He's
funny
like,
guy.
Yeah, and his relatability to the people that show up to his shows is what makes his live shows, to me, just about better than darn near anything I've ever seen, and I'm not speaking of hyperbole. I really mean that.
How did you wind up? Were you doing any kind of documentary film work? What were you doing to make a living, and how did you wind up with the idea to do this? And then how do you get to him and convince him, if he is that much of an introvert, that this would be something that maybe he would want to be involved in?
So like you asked me earlier, I went to Oklahoma, and so I have just seen him over the years. And I simultaneously at the same time, while coming into town 2 or 3 times a year, I would always go watch the Mike Hosty, whatever outfit he was in. But my career was in sports mainly, as a videographer working for Fox Sports.
So you did have history with storytelling,
with
visual storytelling.
Definitely with storytelling, but not for 90 minutes like this one is. But so we had sort of, like Hosty sees people show up to shows routinely,
Right.
So over the years we kind of knew each other. And I went up to him in Tulsa one time, saw he was playing on a Saturday night by himself, which was not normal. He had just broken up with a duo. And so I'm like, you're by yourself? He's like, yeah, I'm by myself permanently now. I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, after a little liquid courage, I went up to him. I was like, yeah, I go, I've always wanted to do something on you. Would you care if I did a documentary on you? And he was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, so agreeable, but probably not thinking it was going to turn into anything. And that was in 2016. And it just evolved, and I kept digging and finding the story and asking other musicians if they thought the same way about his talents that I did and why he wasn't big. And it just kept growing and growing. And then it became more of a personal story. And that's when I knew I had something that was going to be relatable to the 12-year-old, girl gymnast in New Jersey who has no connection to this.
So how difficult is it? You mentioned Shiny Ribs.
Yes.
There's a bunch of people in this. Cody Canada's in it. Jason Boland is in it, talking about Mike. Obviously, Stoney LaRue, who had a big hit with one of Mike's songs, which is the title of the film. Jamie Oldacre, who played with Eric Clapton for a long time, is in it. Like, how difficult was it? Because I got to believe if you're a public figure on a certain level, that on a regular basis, you're getting people coming to you, wanting you to, if nothing else, just give them a little bit of time. And you never know whether it's going to go anywhere or not, right? I might sit down and do a 30-minute interview with you, and is it ever going to see the light of day, or is it going to be this project that you either work on forever, or you finish it and make it and it never goes out anywhere? So were you able to convince those people? Was it as simple as, I'll get Stoney to do it because that's an obvious tie-in, and then that legitimizes me to be able to go to this guy and get him, and then I have two guys, and then I go to the other guy and get him and go, well, I got this guy and this guy. So how did that come together?
Well, in this case, I didn't really have to sell getting Stoney to get Cody Canada or get Jason Boland or get Ryan Lindsay or get Tyson Mead of, Changeling Kittens. They knew Hosty.
You probably couldn't get Tyson to shut up. So
Tyson was great, like fantastic. And he's actually going to be coming to the screening on Sunday, which is great and special. But just the name Mike Hosty, like Cody Canada, I emailed him or his manager's wife, and she was just like, oh, he would love to talk about Hosty. And he's one of the biggest cheerleaders of Mike Hosty that there is. And that was when I'm like, okay, I know, I'm not really that well-versed. I wasn't well-versed at all in the red dirt Texas country scene, but I had definitely heard of Cross Canadian Ragweed.
Sure.
Having to figure out who those people were, that was the hard part of asking Mike who these people, like who could speak of you that might, I had to drag it out of him. Like, oh, humble Mike Hosty was just like, oh, I don't know, Cody Canada of the Cross Canadian Ragweed. You heard of him? I'm like, yeah, I've heard of Cross Canadian Ragweed. So I, tracked him down, and he said yes immediately. And I'm like, okay, I'm reading this right, that there's other people out there in the music business that think about his talents, like I said earlier, the way that I do. And it didn't surprise me, but it was just gratifying to see
It certainly helps that you are working or trying to get to people that are just genuinely nice and approachable people. I don't know all of those people, but the ones that I do that are involved in your film, all are really cool people. But what's funny is if you can get to the right person, a lot of times you can. I'll tell you a story, and I shouldn't because we're running along on time anyway, but I will. When the Oklahoma City bombing happened, we had that song, Tears in Heaven with Eric Clapton, that had the clips in it from, news clips, whatever, the radio tribute like we always do with certain things.
Sure.
And we wanted to put it out on CD and sell it. We would have to sell it because it was going to cost money to produce it, but then any money that we made on it, we were going to give to charity. But you got to get permission to use the song. So I'll call Eric Clapton's, and I was a huge Eric Clapton fan, so I'll call Eric Clapton's manager, and I know that I won't talk to him, but I'll talk to somebody that will say, okay, you need to get in touch with this person who can then get in touch with this person, so I'm going to go through the chain of command to get it so that we can get permission. So I call, his name's Roger Forrester. I call Roger Forrester. I find his number somewhere. We used to have guidebooks that had all this info in it. And I call Roger Forrester's office, and the receptionist answers the phone. And I said, yeah, I'm Brad from Oklahoma City, KATT Radio, blah, blah, blah. I told her the story. She goes, okay, hang on one second. She put me on hold, and Roger Forrester picked up the phone, like, within 15 seconds. And he was like, yeah, of course. Of course, you're going to have to do one thing. And I go, oh, great. Here it comes. What?
$15,000.
No, he goes, you got to send us 4 or 5 of those so we can have them on file.
That's great.
And it just shows
awesome.
that if you can get to the right person, you can get things done. And that's cool that you were able to do it. So now it's going to show, it showed in Phoenix. It's going to show here. I mean, are you going to take it to South by Southwest? Because this seems like it's probably too far away. You don't want to wait until next year. It's the perfect film. You should have had it there this year. But
yeah.
Is it going to come out streaming? Is it going to come out theatrically? Are you still shopping a deal? Like, what's the future of the film?
So the festival run is a very new thing for me, and so this is kind of the early part of that, and I'm going to be continuing to try to get it out to festivals so you can get the awareness out about the film and about Mike, and then it kind of hopefully will sort of pick up momentum, and then along the way, hopefully get a distributor who's interested in the film and wants to help me put it out.
KATT-FM, Oklahoma City.
That's my bad. There's an automatic thing in this new.
No, that's fine. But I would just want to, get the interest of distributors who are, think that this story can resonate with people, and that's
Right.
really the bottom line. And I've talked to a couple, and there's actually a little forum with the deadCenter Film Festival, which is an incredible thing that they do. They actually set it up for filmmakers to talk to distributors one-on-one. This festival is incredible, and I'm just so happy to be a part of it. They really do a great job.
That's cool. It's awesome that it's showing. So it's Sunday. Now, are you going to do another one? Like, did this pique your interest in trying to find another subject and doing some other kind of long-form documentary?
Oh, without a doubt, it's piqued my interest. Now, I can multitask, but when you're working on it by yourself, and this
Right.
is kind of what I've been doing, it's really been my baby. I did kind of everything on it. Like, it's been exhausting, to be quite honest with you. But I want to see it through, and it's hard for me to jump to another project. If I had more helping hands on another project, I could maybe start doing it. But there's a few, maybe a sports, maybe a specific music guy that I'm looking at. But I got to get through this one first.
Well, good for you, man. I love a good music documentary, and I'm excited to watch this thing.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see the whole thing, and just the trailer is really nice. And there's a little mention of the cat in there.
Yes.
Here, I'll play this. It's not going to take that long. I'll play this little thing. It's Mike talking about. He's talking about the sort of the sample, playing above his own sample, right?
Walmart checkout system.
Yeah, but he's giving the example of how he can have something looped and then he can play lead over the top of that, and that's the background of what he is talking about in this little clip here.
I don't have a guitar tech, so you got to use the hold music, or it's the same music that they use at Walmart in the self-checkout system for the Welcome to Walmart self-checkout system. Please scan your first item. Put your item in the bagging area. You did not place your item in the bagging area. Welcome to Walmart self-checkout. Please scan your first item. Para español, marque número dos. It should have better music. It would speed you up. It'd be like, welcome to the Walmart self-checkout system. Scan your item and do it now. Now. You're not scanning fast enough. Not scanning fast enough. Featuring Five Finger Death Punch, Avenged Sevenfold, and special speed metal guest Pantera. Sponsored by Rock 100.5, The KATT.
That's awesome. So it's called Oklahoma Breakdown, the Mike Hosty story. It's showing Sunday as part of deadCenter. Now, do you have to buy the deadCenter package, or can you go get tickets to the film itself? Like, how does that work?
So if you want to, assure yourself of tickets, you buy the package. It's $175 or $300 depending on what you want, or you can show up 20 minutes early is when they start issuing tickets to the public. And it's $10. So,
Okay.
Obviously the first come, first serve thing could play out in this thing. There's been a lot of interest. So if you want to make sure you get in there, definitely be there at least 20 minutes early.
And if you want to watch the trailer and find any more details about it, it's oklahomabreakdown.com. Chris, it's good to see you, man.
Thank you so much
Good
for
luck
having me
with
on.
everything. I can't wait to see it, and hopefully we'll be talking again about another one sometime soon.
That would be fantastic.
Appreciate
Thank you
it,
so
man.
much.
Rick and Brad on Rock 100.5, The KATT.